Yeah, but
So
I guess that means it is recording, right?
yeah,
And
let me log on to Twitch.
okay.
Twitch.
I guess it records in Twitch and everywhere else in case I really need it.
Yep.
Okay.
Recent
Oh,
broadcast. It's live now on Twitch.
okay, great. We don't have
Okay.
for the people, no one watching the stream right now. We don't
We need to advertise.
have Brandon, so Matt Ray and I are just winging it. Oh, look, I got some
I'm
notifications in Twitter.
going to Slack.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Let's see, we can get the afternoon crowd. Yeah, I know I want to send here. Boom.
Computers are being helpful.
Well, you know, if you're in our Slack, you probably care. If you're in the software defined talk Slack, maybe you care about software defined talk.
It's true. How do you like my big head on the video today? Is that big enough?
I was inspired, so I zoomed in. Did you notice that?
No. Because I'm still working with, I got the fancy camera going. I still don't
You
have it
got the
quite
fancy
set up
camera?
correctly. Yeah. Oh, the lighting though. I'm not really, it's too dark down here. Let's see if I can really blow out the lights. Let's see. Turn this way up.
How's that?
Oh, that's good. There we go. See, check out. No, wait. No. I was adjusting the you know what I should do is take a class on video and lighting. Whoa, how about that?
I think I just want to record like this. Like Cote and Matt, whose head is bigger?
Oh,
wait. Can I get that one again?
Oh, of me? Here.
Yes.
I'm actually stopped by the microphone. I can't come in anymore.
Okay. Screenshotted. Got to give the people what they want.
Whether they know it or not. Anyway, so let's finish our little pre-show entertainment here, which was
I thought my big forehead was the pre-show entertainment.
Well, part 2 of pre-show entertainment. So I've noticed, I watched that Kinji Alt Lopez guy, love his stuff, and he has a stovetop that seems to have a oblong, is that the word? A long burner in the center rather than a square one.
Yeah.
And I believe my theory is that you could then get a rectangular, piece of cast iron, a griddle.
Okay.
And you can put it on there, and then you have a long cooking surface.
And you know what you can do, Cote? Flapjacks.
Yes, flapjacks. Is that what in Australia do they call those flappies?
I don't know what they call them. Jackredos. I don't know.
Do they call them something like thin roundies? Roundy thins.
I don't know if I've had pancakes in Australia.
Maybe they call them carbo jacks. Wait, let me write these down. See, these are all good.
Oh, you think these are good? Okay.
Australian names for pancakes. Thin. Well, no, they would call them jackies, right? Thin roundies, carbo jacks.
Yes. Those are all perfectly acceptable.
Or how about Yankee discs?
Yankee discs?
Yankee breakfast discs. Because over here, if you really want to get pancakes, you have to get American pancakes. Otherwise, you're just getting some weird thing. Like, it gets confusing.
Flatbread.
Yeah. There you go. How about...
Is that another alternate name?
Flappies.
Flappies?
Basically, what I've learned is to do the Australian slang for anything, you add E's at the end.
Or O's.
Flappos?
Yeah. Flappos.
Flappies /
panos.
Flappos.
Flappos.
Hotcakes.
Ooh. Panos.
Yeah, so that's the theory. Then you got to get the oblong thing there. I think
okay. Well, I have a brand new oven, so that's nice. Still no heating. Not nice. Because it's winter here in Australia. And It's been cold and rainy since we moved in.
Yep.
But I do have new internet, so that's good.
Yeah.
That
What do you
took a
got
few
there? You got a
days.
Telstra? Is that what you're dealing with? That's the only
I've got
internet company, right?
well, I have the National Broadband Network (NBN).
Mm.
So yeah, they got nationalized on that stuff, and then you get like a different like carrier for the network. So the network's provided by the government,
Mm.
and well, you can get other ones, but NBN is pretty good, and I've got, as far as I know, the fastest tier of it I can get, which is 1,000 megabit, 200
Oh,
down
nice.
up.
I think
Yeah,
that's what I. Oh, I only they throttle it to like 45 up or something, which I never understand that.
yeah. Maybe it's I don't know what the up is.
However,
200 maybe.
however, someone came by yesterday and we got a mailer from KPM, the biggest whatever, and they said they're installing fiber to home here. I don't know what that means, but they got to schedule some time to do fiber to home. So hopefully that means faster speeds. Maybe I can download all of my Google Photos.
Well, you're not going to do it with Google Fiber, that's for sure. Oof.
Anyhow,
But anyway, so my internet's finally fast enough. Now I just have to deal with Wi-Fi in the house. But I got everything wired up. Um, Last house, we were only there like 7 months. So now, and I
they
was
should.
directly.
The government
Yeah.
should just nationalize internet. I mean, I know all the whoever would be like they'll screw it up, but it's sort of like, I mean, and of course I know all the shocked answers, but it's like, yeah, but I don't really know how you would screw it up. You would just be like, let's make it as fast as possible and as cheap as possible. That's what you do,
Yeah.
and it's just
Well, yeah. The problem in the US is like anytime they have municipal broadband, like the private companies just lobby their congressmen to
yeah,
kill
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as
That's why they
usual,
don't have it.
I think a lot of the problems like that just stem from like lack of. It's funny. Federalist system means the opposite of strong federal, right? Yeah, is basically the favoring thousands of local governments that conflict with each other over just one national thing, which is turns out pretty fucking stupid. That I think that's we can go back to James Madison and be like, we got the result of the American experiment. This federalism stuff is bullshit. Like it basically it doesn't scale is the problem. If you have 13,
Yeah.
if you got 13 that are within like, a day's travel of each other, maybe. But when you've got 50,000, it's just bullshit. But
I'm looking at you, Nevada.
yeah, two expat Americans rule on American governing. That's what
Well,
we got there.
with the latest January 6th stuff today,
Mm,
I'm sure the founding fathers would be like, "Oh yeah, things working as expected."
yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff.
And of course, the obligatory. They'd be pretty pissed off. There's Catholics in the Supreme Court. I got to go answer a door. Just a
Oh
second.
yeah, that's fine.
No, I'm having to answer the door. I'm sorry. I have a key. I don't know a key. Then borrow a key. Had to get up. It's still on my call.
Damn, Matt Ray, you're throwing down the law there. Daddy's got
What's
to
that?
work. You're like, I'm still on my call. Ah!
It's a good mic, huh? next
Uh,
time, next time we mute that.
I never really know how to handle that kind of thing, right? Like I'm doing my goofy personal podcast. I guess I do know how to handle it. We have it in the record just to get kids running around wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me.
Yeah. So all moved in and trying to
the saga continues.
trying to
Do
get
you,
some semblance of normalcy around here.
do you ever dream like maybe one day this whole house I'm living in is going to be not a problem for a good 10-year
Well,
plan, 10-year
but you
span?
own your house, right? The house in Amsterdam. Did you guys
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
that?
yeah. We
Yeah.
did.
I'm renting, so it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible, and like usually there's all sorts of horror stories about renters asking for things to get repaired and nothing ever happens, or you complain too much about the mold and then they kick you out.
Yeah. Does that mean you're a renty or a rento?
I don't know. I'm part of the downtrodden masses. That's how I feel. But yeah, so they've. I think I put in 6 repair orders the first day we lived here.
Oof.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I have a backlog of other stuff, but those were the higher priority ones. You
Man,
know,
that's rough. That's
ovens and
rough.
still no heat. So
Well, better make the call. Shall we get started?
yeah, we should get started, or else I'll start talking about how much my house in Austin cost me.
Renties.
Uh, more than a year's rent out so far in repairs.
So let me note where we are. So we're gonna start. Start.
The chat room is empty.
Brandon's so good at noting things. Okay, start at around 11. We'll call it because I'm mumbling to myself. 11:10.
Did you post on Twitter? Or?
Yep.
Oh, look, we got a chat room member,
Mm-hmm.
an Australian no less.
Now I've got to update Matt Ray to 20. All right. Oh no, I'm gonna just say 30. Wow, the time really marches on. I'll just say 30. Well, I've been thinking a lot, Matt Ray, about
Yeah.
QR codes. I think QR codes have finally arrived. How are they?
It's like what's keeping Cote up in the middle of the night? QR codes. Yeah.
I think now that they're added as a thing in iOS, and maybe I'm sure been in Android since 1972 or whatever, but now that they're just
It
available
was
to
a good
click
year
on.
for Android.
Yeah, like I still feel like maybe I should ask people who are normals, or as the Australians would say, normalies, and like figure out if they use the QR code function. But I think QR codes have arrived. They're definitely there for authorization things, for logging in stuff, all these things. And I know
Websites. Yeah.
maybe 3 or 4 years ago we covered QR codes, some interest in them. But I feel like we're going to enter a couple of years of solving boring problems like with QR codes that will affect our lives. Like I used one. I was in London earlier this week, and I went to the former Pivotal Labs, the VMware offices. They send you an Apple Wallet thing as a temporary badge that you can scan to get into the gates below, and it's just a QR code. Now, of course, usually it works great. It didn't work this time, but whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
you know that it's a fine technology when it doesn't work 100% of the time. You're really pushing the edge and the boundaries.
But maybe it's achieved like mainstream penetration because people are like, yeah, usually that stuff works.
Yeah. But I think it's the future, Matt Ray. I think it's going to work out.
Now, see, I'm thinking, if I go into my storage in Austin, I can dig up my QCat.
Oh yeah. Good old QCat. I mean, I use it to do here in the Netherlands Tiki payments to pay things, and this is the following is what made me realize that I think QR codes are the future. I was putting together presentations today. Today was the deadline for uploading your quote unquote final slides, and I'll get to remind me to get back to the file naming format because it's great. To VMware Explore, which is occurring August 29th to September 1st. I'm taking over someone's talk, so I'll be giving 2 talks at VMware Explore, formerly known as VMworld. You may know it as VMworld.
And soon to be Broadcom Explorer.
I'm not sure. I'm not privy to the integration conversations that go on there. So
they haven't renamed the conference yet. They're like, we'll see how this Explorer works out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, I have no input. But as always, I think I appreciate the professionalization that goes into providing slides about 90 days, 45 days before an event. But let me get your opinion on this, Matt Ray. Is that necessary?
Well, I think the problem with providing slides that far out in advance is they assume that your slides are timeless.
Yes.
And I'm sure your presentations are timeless, But if you're talking, well, maybe that's a VMware Explorer kind of thing. I mean, Legacy Conf, we could ask for the slides right now. We don't even know when the conference is.
Yeah, because this is a good point. That's a good point. No, that's my main concerns with. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did the work, and it's going to be great. I mean, you've got three things that come up. One, assuming that you follow the letter of the putting the word in all caps final in your file name. That means you can't really change them, and
You
so
can
there.
always put Final V2.
Well, hold on, I'll get to this, but that means that your information is going to be 45 days out of date, right? Things may change, and so
You
you
could
got
have a
that.
new title. You maybe you added another middle name. I don't know.
Yes.
Those slides need to be refreshed right
Now
before
and
the
then,
talk.
more realistically, and I know you know this, and some of our listeners, I know SSHJJ is in the audience here. We can see him. By the way, if you want to watch live streaming, we live stream most of our episodes. Kind of a weird time today because there's no Brandon, but you can just go to I don't know, go to softwaredefinedtalk.com and find out where that is. But realistically, what this means is that it's totally incompatible with my way of doing presentations, which is like the most professional I've ever gotten at doing presentations is maybe about a week ahead of time I start thinking about it and kind of figuring things out.
Yeah,
And
I'm more of like, submit a title and a wishy-washy abstract, and don't bother me until like 2 days before the talk.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. And so like I just, that's my style of presenting. And I know it's like whatever word people want to use, hoity-toity, privileged or whatever, but I feel like there needs to be a checkbox that's like I have given more than 50 talks. And so get the fuck off my back, right? Like and it's almost
Yeah,
like there
yeah.
should there should be sort of like it's like airline and travel status. Like at some point you should you've given enough talks. Maybe you need to requalify with maybe 2 to 5 a year or whatever. There'll be a qualification period, but I feel like people should be like, oh right, no problem, right? And like we'll see you the day of, right? Bring an HDMI connector, that's all. And if you have video that has audio, whoever presents, they always ask you this, whoever presents a presentation that has video with audio, maybe people outside of YouTube.
So at the open source summit, some of the talks were pre-recorded, and so the speaker wasn't even there. And so you go into a room and they're just like streaming it. And I was like, well, what was the point of this? They didn't even have like the speaker taking questions. That just drove me batty because I was like, I can watch videos on YouTube. I wanted to hear the speaker and then probably have follow-up questions. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not
Sorry,
sure.
sorry to rant on that, but man.
Maybe I should try that next time. I'll just put in some little audio thing and at the beginning be like, first of all, I've always wanted to do this. They always ask me if I have any video with audio. And so here is some video with audio that I'm going to put in here. It's only 45 seconds, has nothing to do with the content. So please bear with me. So you got that going on, which means this leads to, if you are in the titanium level of public speaking, what the trick that you learn. And I think this was crystallized in my head. Was it? I don't know. It was finally like the concrete was finally dried on this idea by Bridget, and it was that what you do is you just have big pictures on every slide, and so that way, basically, you have a picture that kind of fits to whatever you want, and
Yeah, yeah. So the
then you
Andrew
can
Clay
work with that.
Schaefer school, just
Yes,
grab
yes,
some provocative looking photos, throw them into a blender, and get up and talk. And well, I mean, because we used to have the slideshow karaoke. You know,
yeah, yeah.
uh, have you ever done that? I mean, that was
Oh yeah,
uh,
I've been sort of forced to do that a few times, and
it's I it actually worked out well a few times. So and given
yeah.
5 minutes to prepare, man, you could kill it.
Yeah, no, I think it is fun to do. You just have to be in the right mood. So yeah, so that's something you can do. You just put big pictures on there, kind of vagaries, right? Now I've been developing another theory, and then we'll get to the file names. Well, and my next theory is that if you have to submit slides like 45 days ahead of time, the trick that you do is, I think, you have to tell me, but a lot of sales engineers and field engineers do is you just have a 200 slide deck. And as you're actually presenting it, you can bounce around to like whichever part you want, right? Like that, I should try that next time and just basically put together a slide deck of all possible slides I've ever used, and then be like, this is this is my
It's
underscore
just
final deck.
uh, they're like, Kote, you submitted 1,400 slides, and you're like, yes.
And I'll be like, fuck yeah, I did. Because I'm a goddamn PowerPoint DJ, motherfucker. Like,
You're like, it's an animation. Watch.
No, but then you do PowerPoint, you do pptx. There you go, DJ pptx. And what you're doing is basically at that point just like a DJ. You're reading the room, and you're reading your own vibe and everything, and you're just skipping through, just like pulling a bunch of vinyl, or I guess it's not vinyl nowadays, but pulling a bunch of vinyl and MP3 tracks from your directories and your bins, and just throwing together the presentation as makes sense that day, right? So you get the room moving, and
Yeah.
I think that would be perfectly fine. Now, to close out, the thing that really gets to it is the slide. Whenever you need to have a file name, right? And when not only does it have the word underscore final in all caps in it, but it's followed by an underscore that has a numeric representation. I don't know what ISO this is, of the day followed by the month, not the year. But this implies, like, I don't think anyone wanted to do record keeping of when it was finalized, but it definitely implies that there is going to be this is not the final version, and there are going to be many more versions. Which I know this is an old point or an old joke, but I feel like it's something worth revisiting constantly. Is that, like, if you think that it's still okay to put underscore final in something that is going to change, then you should go back to college and kind of kind of like, maybe what you need is like,
Kote, I learned nothing about slide naming in college.
well, no, not even for slide naming, but just naming, but just to lay the foundation that, like, words mean things. That, like, you should have some, like, there's like this reality out there, and that, like, the behavior that you do day to day, if it's in conflict with reality, your stated intention, you're sort of like, pooping all over your ability to have, like, your cognitive load. Like, it's just one more thing. Like, we got a lot of things to worry about, and the fact that, like, your people are knowingly calling something final when it really should be called just the start underscore 2807. Like,
your file names are a narrative. VMware keynote underscore just getting started. VMware keynote. I think I've got about 50% done here. This is a good rough draft. Let me know what you think. Feedback welcome. .pptx.
Feedback welcome. That would be great. We're gonna do all communication through. Okay. Here's our startup idea. We talked about incident.io last week. This is this is, of course, like the April Fool's startup idea. Is we realized that office workers do a significant amount of semantic communication through file names. So we're just going to embrace this whole hog, and we're going to have an entire white collar workflow system based only on file names. So we'll maintain a directory of files, and as workers communicate by changing the name of files and adding new files, we'll send notifications to them. It's currently only available, invite only, on iOS. Well, speaking of, getting to our, less, well, I don't know, that was a pretty tech related thing, Matt Ray. I think we're improving lives.
It's news.
I think related. I was, and it's not so much. This is just wonderment at the world. I use this program called Text Expander. Not as much as I used to, but I've used it.
Oh, so you actually use it?
Oh yeah, and it's
you
great.
You are a user. Okay.
I mean, it does exactly as they say what it does on the tin. There's some advanced functionality, which I'll summarize briefly, that I don't.
Do you pay for it?
Yes, I pay for it.
Oh,
because
okay.
I find it handy, right? Like, so if I want to know, I of course don't have my phone number memorized, right? My Netherlands phone number, but I can just type in NL phone, and it will just replace it in most any field that I'm using on my computer. And the good apps, on my phone. Uh,
See, that's my problem. Is I haven't bought into the defaults lifestyle enough to be only be using the good apps.
yeah,
So
yeah.
half the
Well,
stuff I'm using is janky, and then
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, whatever happened to that app that I really loved? And just like I found out before the call, it hasn't been developed in 6 years, and they're looking for a new
Exactly.
maintainer.
Yeah, but you type in NL phone and it replaces it with your phone number. I can type in NL address, it'll do that. There's even more advanced things. Like, I don't use this so much anymore, but there's this practice when you're writing that you can that I learned from Cory Doctorow. I mean, he didn't come up with it, but you can put in the letters TK in your draft, and that's like, come
Yeah,
back and revisit that. And the logic there, for people who don't know, is that the letters TK occur very infrequently in the English language. I forget when. There's a few words that they occur in, but basically, if you, no matter the size of how many words you have in writing, if you put TK in, it's probably not an actual word. So you can go back and search for that.
yeah.
So,
I always just put triple X, and but apparently, maybe Mr. Doctor uses that a lot more than I do.
well, he's writing lots of reviews of Vin Diesel movies, so it
There you go.
comes up a lot. But like so I had one that, like, you write in TK and it does a TK with little parentheses next to it, and it moves the cursor in there. All sorts of fun stuff like that. Now, Text Expander has more advanced features where you basically can create forms, kind
Hmm.
of like UI mail merge, if you will. You
Yeah,
can enter
yeah.
things, which is also fine. But so it's a good little app. It's been around forever, but apparently they just got $41.4 million in funding, which,
Whew.
like, I don't really, it says in their press release, it said they have 100,000 monthly users. And I tried to do them. I did some math. You can sign up for like a basic account, for like an individual account, for like $3 or $4 a month. And, then there's the enterprise tier of Call Us, and there's a business account with shared
Wait,
people
wait,
that's
wait, wait.
$10.
100,000 times 3 or 4, and they got $41 million.
So I used 8, somewhere in the middle there, right? So of course that comes up with 800,000 revenue. So we're talking somewhere between, let's
Eight hundred
say,
thousand monthly revenue,
no, that would be, oh yeah, that would be monthly, wouldn't it? Wow,
right?
that's a lot of revenue, huh?
Well, it's still not though. I mean, if you're talking,
Let's let's
what'd you
let's
say?
bust it. Let's bust it down to 500,000. Check my math on this, Matt Ray, because
Hundred
that doesn't
thousand
seem right.
users. That's a nice round number.
Yes,
And just pick a number for how much you think the average
let's say
user's
five
paying per month.
dollars.
So
Let's
five
say
hundred
five
thousand a month,
dollars. Yeah,
right?
and then, yep.
6 million a year.
There you go. As my, our friend of the podcast, Mason Carroll, was in town last week, and as he told me, don't do math in public. He's like, never do math in public. Yeah, so
Unless
I
you want
get
to be second guessed. Yeah.
so one, that's a lot of revenue, and hopefully, I don't know if those are paying users. Maybe there's free trial users, but whatever.
Right.
Let's say
Yeah,
they
but
even have 1 million a year in revenue. I would still be astounded at
you
that.
mean 1 million a month? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, a
because we're,
million.
we're talking 6 million a year if
Yes.
if we're at 500,000 a month. But to get 41 million, that means somebody wrote them a check who thinks that they can get to a 10x multiplier on their return.
Yeah, and so, I mean, what I'm saying is, like, I don't like, what how do you do more? Like, it's I
well,
get
well, hear me out. There's more than just text you can expand.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
But
obviously,
I mean, there's such a feature that's in danger of getting Sherlocked, right? I mean, Mac OS could come out with something, Windows could come out with something. It eats into other applications. Smart clipboards. You
mhm,
start having a
mhm.
copy and paste ring. It's just how do you get to 10x return on $40 million?
Now, okay, maybe you're making me think this. I mean, let's sort this out.
Is there some adjacent market that they were like, you know what? If we could double our staff, we could go after that. Because
Yeah,
it can't be like, the world just doesn't know about Text Expander. Like the
I
product's
think,
been
yeah.
around for 15 years, right?
Yeah, I think what
The
we're
world
doing,
knows.
we're entering another episode here of the Software Defined Talk venture fund. We might invite one of our partners from the hedge fund over, the private equity
Yeah.
firm, to kind of participate. But I think you're right. The first thing you're going to do, obviously there's not enough awareness of this. So we're gonna see a new marketing efforts, a lot of product led growth, stuff like that. But I think that the other thing that's going on here that might be in the deck is a reference to low code, and that is, so you've got those forms you pulled together, and the enterprise thing is you've got teams that are going to share these forms. And what if we connect these to like your Salesforce or a database? And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden we've got a low code work form platform where we're building up workflows of things that can have value. And we've got our new marketing effort, so we can do our PLG effort to do this, but we also have our existing customer base, and we can start to convert them over to this kind of like connecting stateful text expander is what we're talking about here. It maybe even transactions.
Chatbots.
Yeah, yeah, and I think maybe we might be off to the races with something.
You know what? I bet that VC pitch slide deck had machine learning in it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think, but this connects to something else, to maybe even our next topic here, which is, I think maybe one of the roles that I can play, or that we might want to have be a kind of like a more of a centralized source in the software defined talk hedge fund industry. We'll call it, what should we call it? We should call it software defined talk. Finances. We need some name that is like an all-encompassing, like it's both our private equity firm and our hedge fund and our venture firm, right? And also a wealth management firm. Just kind of like, is that enterprises? Is that what we want to go for?
The
Software
software
defined talk
defined
enterprise.
fund.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, I think what we're gonna need is we're gonna need some ethical input into
Oh, you
it.
lost half the market right there.
Now hold on, it's not that ethical. The only ethical
Okay.
input is
Whew.
just, we call it the screwdriver filter, which is like, but does the world really need this? Right? This may be profitable, but does the world need it? And the baseline here, to get one of my current hobby horses, is like, we don't really need 30 to 40 types of screws. It's just like it's unnecessary, right?
'Cause- but that's not like something. There's not some VC who's out there like, you know what? I got $1 billion idea, new kind of screw type.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's just representative. Like I would be willing to accept 2 to 3 types of screws, right? Like we have one screw that's just like the default screw everyone uses everywhere. I don't care what it is, but just one. And then you can have a decorative screw. That's cool. I don't mind a decorative screw, whatever that means, right? And then the following one, I'm a little, well, no, the decorative screw is the optional one. But then I can accept that you need some sort of like, um, what's the security, the equivalent of security through obscurity with screws, which is like, it's a non-standard screw
Well,
that
that's
therefore is
Apple. That's Apple's technique. We're like, you know what we're gonna do? Pentalobe. And you're like, wait, I don't have pentalobe. It's like, and then iFixit sells a pentalobe, adapter that you have to go and buy a whole bunch of screw heads. And that's Apple's play, is they put all those rando types of screws on there. Like,
exactly.
you know what you need? Torque 2.
But this second category of screws, the security screw, is it's based on the idea that like people will not be carrying around this specialized screw head, but in whatever fantasy realm we're talking about, for some reason they are carrying around the other screwdrivers so that they can't unscrew things. You see these in like airports and industrial settings where it's just like not a standard screw holding things on. And so sure, whatever, we can have that type of screw, and then maybe a decorative screw just because like whatever. But really, I think humanity only needs 3 types of screws. Anything else is just capitalism gone amok, right? So we take that same sort of approach, the same theory to the investments that we have, and we say like, yes, this might even be profitable, but does the world need this? And I feel like maybe whatever text expander is thinking of moving into, I'm not sure the world needs it, right? It may not be
Well,
something that's required. It could just be, and therefore that $41.4 million, we can round it down to 41 million. That's cool. We could even round it down to 40.
we'll
I
call it
think
40.
perhaps
Yeah.
perhaps it should be allocated to other things, like starting up the software defined talk, funds fund, or other areas that more ethically will sort of like allocate cash into things that humanity needs, not kind of duplicating things and specializing in there. Now, that said, I do enjoy Text Expander, so it'll be fun to see them
Yeah.
getting better.
Yeah, I mean, wait, didn't we make fun of, 1Password when they raised what'd they raise, like 200 million, some ridiculous amount?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
You know?
also it could also be a case of like now I'm fully open to we just need an existing brand, an existing cash flow thing, and we're just going to expand into entirely new types of business. I mean, that would be kind of like a somewhat PE sort of approach to it, of just like we're just buying this thing to fuel something else, which that could be cool as well.
To me, that's gotta be what it is. They must have some better idea than, the world just doesn't know about text expansion.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're going to merge into this Citrix Tibco thing I've read about recently, and just kind of throw it all together. But
Well, then we'll invite them to Legacy Conf.
yeah, bring back. I think maybe they could shave off like Claris and FileMaker from Apple, and really throw together. Maybe throw in the Omni group, and we're off to the
Hey,
races.
yes.
I would recommend they should also purchase SetApp, which basically I think you've got a good pitch there. This is
And
we'll
and
get
and bring back Control Plane, please.
yeah we'll get the software
It
defined
needs a
talk.
maintainer.
We'll get the software defined talk venture fund some interns on this to throw this pitch together. Go get a teeth whitening and pitch the shit out of this. Now speaking, the other thing I wanted to highlight, Matt Ray. Maybe this is just brief, but speaking of there should only be three types of screws. Have you found that you no longer are working on Fridays? Has your work week been reduced? Are you
No.
being unproductive?
No, it hasn't. What I found is Friday usually ends up in the day of as the day of, oh, all that crap I thought I'd get done by the end of the week. I need to get it done today, and then it kind of bleeds into Saturday. But
Hmm.
maybe that's because I'm on some sort of weird Australian schedule, because uh, most of my coworkers, they're still working on my Saturday. My Saturday
Yes.
morning is their Friday afternoon, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm always down for a call on a Friday afternoon.
Now,
And then,
isn't this a
and on
Saturday?
Mondays, nobody's around. And
Isn't
so
this a
I'm like,
Saturday right
whew.
now? Is that right?
No, this is Friday
Still a
afternoon,
Friday. Friday after.
late
Okay.
Friday, late Friday. And, I'll go and, after this call, have some dinner and then go to bed and wake up, and it'll be Friday afternoon. And all the meetings that I wanted to have with people are happening Saturday morning.
Right. Well, and then to be fair, I think you also work for a startup. So you're trying to use productivity to establish value in the market, which is fine.
That's a good idea. I should do that.
Yes, yes. Now I bring this up because every week we've got this sorting out the post-pandemic work ethics, right?
Yes.
I feel like, tell me your sense of this, Matt Ray, but I feel like we're close. We're maybe 12 months out from finally having a ruling on the work from home thing.
I
I
think
think
it's done. I
yeah.
think that I think it's not coming back.
Well, that's what I
We've
mean.
had a
I think having a rule. I'm sorry. I think finally we're 12 months out from the editorial desk being like, nope, we're not running that story. That story's dead. Like it's we
Mm.
don't need to go over that again.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's not getting enough clicks anymore.
No.
That meme has sailed, and now
What
we'll
we're
we'll go on. Now we'll go
may,
on to like blaming things on millennials or something. That's
maybe
evergreen, right?
maybe what we'll see is instead there'll be a story about how, because people are working at home, they have less time to click on news articles and more time to wash dishes or
All that
something.
time spent commuting can now be spent clicking on articles.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I think we might be on to something there. But what I think, I forget where it was. Maybe in the Washington Post. But there's some complaining, and by apparently what I mean is, like, who knows if there were just five people that a journalist talked to. But like, apparently there's some consternation that when you have this work from home, it makes it easier for people to goof off on Friday. And I think
Mm.
there was a quote from some manager that, like, this working on Friday, working from home in general, people just end up mowing their lawn too much, and things aren't working out well. And as always, my position on this is basically, I mean, it's the a version of the screwdriver problem, which is like, you know, I feel like, what has GDP done for me recently? Right? Like, it's just like at some point, all of humanity's investment in GDP needs to have a payoff. And that payoff needs to be taking a break, right? Like, and it should also become permanent, right? Like, we moved to the, thanks to unions and so forth and so on, we moved to the 40-hour work week. And then also it should be pointed out, very controversial, problematic figure. Henry Ford was like, maybe if I start treating workers well, they will be employed by me and do better work. Genius
and can
insight.
afford to buy their products.
Yeah, genius insight from the capitalist. Love it, right? Like, but I feel like at some point, and I finished reading that Ray Dalio book. He like walks right up to this type of thinking that maybe us capitalists should stop being rapacious assholes. Although appholes is also, don't do that. But like,
But then he realized he wouldn't get invited to the next Bilderberg meeting,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
he stepped away.
One of his major points, to just do a slight thing into this, is he was basically like, I've studied history, I've got this cycle, and eventually what ends up happening is the rich end up getting their heads chopped off. So let's avoid that, right? I think I
He's like, meanwhile, in New Zealand.
and so, but I feel like we need to have, maybe this isn't the next G7 summit or the Davos or whatever, but there needs to be, and I'll volunteer to chair this. I want to chair a panel that's basically like, what's GDP done for me as an individual? Now, most of the people in this room, GDP's done a lot, but let's consider this from every human's perspective. Is like, I actually do not enjoy, having to work all the time. So I feel like at some point, we should sort of like get a win as far as things there. And, like, really, what are we doing in that fifth day? Like, I don't know if we're doing very much. And then if we didn't have that fifth day, would anything really happen? Right? Like, it's sort of like, if we all agree to not work on that fifth day, I think it'll be totally cool. We'll adapt and things will be
Once
fine.
again, I'm reminded by one of our resident Australians in the chat that Australia has already got this figured out. Right,
Mm,
the good old days before everyone was working from home was at noon on Fridays you knocked off for the pub,
right.
and and meanwhile the tradies would be like, I know I said I was going to come in this afternoon, but surfs up, and surfs up, and
Right. And
so
and apparently, let me look this up, but I had never, I think it's the British word for it, but maybe it also exists with either an O or an E at the end of it. But apparently there's a word that the British would use that meant, like, it's some acronym or initialization, I'm sorry for those who are paying attention, that basically means like, it's Friday, I'm going to go get drunk. I think is what the initialization was. I can't find it now, but I mean, it's already like an established practice. And I think maybe, it seems like an established practice everywhere that Friday is when you have a long lunch and you do things here and there. So I feel like when we have this Davos summit, we should just decide we're going to have the 4-day work week. Like, why are we still fucking around? Like, what are we doing here?
yeah, but then like some overachievers will take advantage of the rest of us trying to do a four day work week, and they'll get two jobs.
Yeah, which, I think that's great for them. I think they should go for it, and they can be the ones that buy the super yachts and top of the line Apple
My
products.
wife has been eyeing a super yacht lately, so I'll be
Yeah.
working Saturday morning.
Yes. Well, someone reminded us that the initialization is POETIS, POETIS. I don't know what it stands for, but you got that.
Piss off early tomorrow Saturday.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. See, this is very Commonwealth talk right there. So that's what I when listeners, when you go back to your big status meetings, if you're in a managerial position, if you're driving strategy, vision, direction, I want you to add to one of your corporate strategy. We want to eventually, and by eventually soon, get down to a 4-day work week. That's how we're going to attract and retain talent uh, without having to actually change the numbers that we have. And I'm sure there's some sort of difficulty with the way that accounting works, and we might need a Basel 5 to come in or whatever it is and sort this out. But I was reminded, I was at an executive dinner in London on Wednesday night, and someone brought up this great point. They were talking about when you're doing agile, you have an annoyance with annual finance cycle and accounting. And to summarize what they were saying, they were basically like, but what people don't realize is that the rules of accounting and how we do it is pretty much just all made up stuff. Like there's no it's not like gravity, and so like you can just decide to not do it that way, and there's no reason.
See that now I'm because usually don't they say what is the generally accepted accounting practices,
Yes.
and the reason those practices exist is because someone was like, hey, you know what, we don't have to follow these rules, and then
Yeah.
you know what happens after you say we don't have to follow these rules. You've invented Web3 and
But I feel
and
I feel
NFTs, and you're like, whoa. What if money didn't have to be tied to anything? You could
I
just try to make it up,
I feel
right?
like
I mean,
what I'm suggesting is humanely accepted accounting laws, right? Not devious, accounting laws. Just like let's just have accounting practices that like focus
I
on.
do like how you choose to embrace the goodness of humanity.
Yes. And just think how much more less stressed out people would be, how much gooder they could be if they had an extra day in the week, right?
Yeah,
I think measuring
I'd rather have it be Wednesday, so you go two
break up the
one
week.
two two. Yeah,
Yeah, I think these are all things under. If you have a floating day, whatever
okay.
works out for you. But I think as we've learned from the work from home thing, you have to do it company wide, right? Like you can't have, because it's too disruptive having individuals choose different things. You got to all be. That's the compromise we've
Yeah,
made.
well, but then the other problem is like, when you're customer facing, you have to be around for the customers.
That's true. That's true. But then again, on the weekend, you're just like, sorry, it's the weekend, right? Like, or if you go
That's
on
true.
vacation, you're like, sorry. Or if you're like in surgery and be like, sorry, I'm in surgery, right? It's
Time
just like
zones, man.
things are fine. Like I
Yeah,
think I
the
think
world keeps
that
turning.
yeah, yeah. And for those, yeah, anyways. Well, speaking of the world turning, the next thing that I want to go over, this is more of a general topic, is I saw
Yes.
that Microsoft has been adding more sovereign cloud stuff, right? And briefly, sovereign cloud. I think. Well, this is what I want to go over, right? Like the fact that they're adding in sovereign cloud support is fine and interesting, whatever, right? There's two things I wanted to run by you, Matt Ray. One, let me go over them and we can kind of pick the ones. Is that in reading through it, it made me curious. At some point, and maybe that point is now, this is the input that I need. Like, I don't quite know how people choose between the different public clouds as far as differentiation, because I feel like they probably do pretty much the same thing. Maybe you just type different stuff, right? And
Yeah,
so
in
like,
general.
right. So that becomes a question of like what is the actual differentiation that people have. Now, the second thing is like I think there's an interesting sort of like what would you call it? Liberal artsy big picture discussion or pondering to have about sovereign cloud. And
Yeah.
I think maybe the only here's my theory. We can start with this one. I think the only reason the phrase sovereign cloud even exists is because public cloud is a very American biased technology, right? Because effectively, I don't think you would ever hear an American business saying they need a sovereign cloud. Like, we only want to have public cloud that is executing and governed and storing data in the jurisdiction of the United States. Like, because all of public cloud has that, except maybe for Alibaba, blah, 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 right? Like, but it's sort of like that is the default. So, therefore, this concept of sovereign cloud is more revealing of the extreme American bias that you have public cloud with. Because really, all it means is that you're keeping your compute and your data within some sort of, I would argue, non-US jurisdiction. Now, that
Probably.
jurisdiction may
Yeah.
be like Germany, it may be the EU, it
It
could
could,
be.
but it could even be statewide, right? You're like, hey, California's
Okay.
got some new privacy rules, and meanwhile in South Dakota, it's Thunderdome. So let's keep our data in South Dakota
This
or
is good.
Delaware or somewhere like that, right?
As my wife Kim would say, touche. You got
Touche.
that one there, and I think that's true. Is sovereign cloud may speaking of federalism, sovereign cloud may become pro
Even more
federalism
so.
cloud.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, think about all sorts of like data that you want to keep immune to um, subpoenas in certain jurisdictions.
Well,
Uh,
I'm to cite
the
an
things
extreme.
that you've been outside the U.S. for a while, Cote.
Yes.
It's getting pretty
Yeah,
nuts over there.
to just use an extremely controversial hot button terrible issue. I mean, you got the abortion problems back in the U.S. So you
Uh
might
huh.
want a sovereign cloud for making sure that whatever craziness ensues, you can't subpoena like records for things, right? So that could be. We might have all the way down. I don't know, maybe all the way down to the homeowners association level. I don't know what level of governance gets slower than that.
I think my HOA is out of Delaware. Yeah.
Yeah. So at least down to the I guess maybe I don't we don't really have in Austin like below the city level management, I don't think. But I think other cities might have like boroughs or regions or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. I mean,
But
you get some of that though with like HOAs municipal utility districts. I mean,
yeah,
like
no.
my parents live in a subdivision like that was on the annexation schedule for Austin, and oh man, there's all sorts of crazy stuff going
So
on.
here
Like they
here's
poison pilled themselves, and yeah,
exactly. So you could have, there's always the controversy every year, at least once a year, you get a report of how many subpoenas the Amazon ding dong bell thing, you know, answered and sent like video. So you could set up a sovereign cloud outside of U.S. jurisdiction, or in the jurisdiction of some state, county, or city that disallows subpoenaing video surveillance stuff, and therefore
absolutely.
you could avoid doing that. So maybe this might be something the ACLU wants to look into, is the ACLU sovereign cloud situation. Now we've gone way well. No, this is exactly the kind of thing. Is like, so basically, I think it's right there in the name, but you've got this concept of sovereign cloud, which basically just means you want to choose the legal jurisdiction that
Yeah.
your compute and storage is ruled under, and that's pretty much what sovereign cloud is.
Well, and it's interesting that they're making. I mean, I guess they're making a big deal of it because people were asking for it and they hadn't clarified it before, right?
Mm,
And so probably they were like, oh yeah, that North Virginia data center, that's actually it's actually not in North Virginia. Some of it's in Maryland, or they had to clarify things like that. And I do know of a company that you know they send their data to Iceland and the US because they want to be able to, like, if somebody in the US says, hey, you can't have that, they're like, yeah, but talk to Iceland if you really want it.
mm,
So people have been aware of this. Now that it's being explicitly offered, it's I mean, I don't it's definitely customer driven. And I would be surprised. I'd be surprised if you actually I mean, because there's already different pricing between availability zones.
mm.
So they try to send you more traffic over to Iowa because nobody's there, or something like that. So um, maybe it just becomes like a checkbox next to your AZ is like, yes, I really don't want my stuff to leave Iowa, or
Yeah.
your availability zone of choice. How much they charge for that? That seems a little weird to me, but
Well, it's yeah. I mean, if it becomes pervasive and part of the system, just you can charge
it
us
just becomes a
not very
feature,
much for it.
right?
Yeah.
It becomes an undifferentiated feature, hopefully. But working abroad like we do, I definitely know customers are like, well, we can't run on AWS because they're not in our country, or
Right. Right.
which is
Right.
why AWS has 50 or 60 AZs now, and you're like, why did Malaysia get one? And it's like it's because of stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, again, going back to the beginning, right? I mean, it's a very like American bias thing, right? I think the way to kind of like, if kind of get your mind around it, is if you went to every American company and you were like, yeah, well, I mean, all your stuff is going to run in Germany, of course. Like all the American companies would
And
be
they're like,
like,
whoa, whoa,
whoa,
whoa,
whoa,
whoa.
slow down.
Germany's got won't let us talk about Nazis.
Yeah, and just like, whoa, hey, hold on, right? So it's just like that perspective. Now, here's we've done a lot of work for the software defined fund here, and I think that's good because that means like we're generating a lot of ideas so we can only have 4-day work weeks at the software defined fund. But I want to pitch this. You use edge computing to basically deploy clouds at embassies and consulates across the world, and also like trade zones that have a legal status that is not in the country that they are actually in, right? Like I think
Look,
there's
you're just making more work for the NSA. Now they got to tap an additional data line. I mean, come on.
and like I think there's like those weird trade zones in China where like
Oh
for
yeah.
tax status that like it's actually not covered by Chinese trade stuff, and so
Hmm.
therefore blah blah
Well, the
blah,
U.S.
and
has
that's
that too.
yeah, yeah. And so like you find and like at airports you find all these weird
All the duty free
jurisdictions.
stores and yeah.
Yeah, and you just get some high speed.
Can I put a data center in my duty free store? That's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Or like, can you go to the Chilean embassy and you can run like an edge cloud there that is therefore under the jurisdiction of Chile, whatever that may be. I don't know if that's good or bad, but then you have your, if you care about the milliseconds, you have your local access in the States or Germany or wherever it may be located. And
It's like a big VPN tunnel
right, but it's actually
back to Chile.
geographically like it could be literally across the street. It could be literally through just a brick wall, like right next door there, right?
Yeah.
And then you've now then we're gonna go. We can pass some
Every
more
room in the
rules.
United Nations building is a separate data center.
And now this is where we're gonna achieve hockey stick growth with this investment. Matt Ray is like, let me blow your mind. What if a server can become a consulate? And so it's just like this one server is actually a legal jurisdiction of Chile or
That
the
every
United
time I hear
States.
trusted enclave, that's what I'm thinking.
Now and then wait, if that blew your mind, let me blow your mind further. What if a container or even a unikernel is actually a consulate and that becomes a
Like
legal jurisdiction?
you try to connect to the container and it just says don't tread on me.
Yeah, it's just like please do not apply here. So I think sovereign cloud combined together with edge computing and unikernels. Of course going to need to further some advances in quantum computing, and that's going to be the future of Web3. Is how things are going to pan out. So
Sounds like an NFT waiting to happen.
I look forward. I'm going to have to check in on current Roth IRA investing schemes because I think I need to transfer
There are a
some
few out there.
assets. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to transfer the assets for this company into that Roth IRA so I can have 800x returns tax
Yeah.
free.
Peter Thiel style.
Yeah. Now, isn't that well? I guess even if you had 800 times, 200 times returns, well, because you could deal with the penalties probably. I don't know, all sorts of spreadsheets you could deal with. But the problem with all those schemes is like, don't you have to wait till you're 63 to withdraw the money? Like, I feel like that's
Well, you can get hit up for taxes at whatever tax rate you're at when you
yeah.
withdraw. And then the thinking is you will be earning less money, and so the tax is deferred until you pull it out. I
See
don't think you
here,
actually have to wait till 60. So
this is okay. Let's go back to our, the what has GDP ever done for me? With the upcoming podcast series that I'm gonna do. I
yes,
think, but so here, let's belie the capitalist overproductivity incoherence, right? So ultimately, what the capitalists want to do is they want to avoid paying taxes on things. So they have this scheme to put stuff in Roth IRAs, and the assumption is that you'll have lower income when you withdraw the money. How are you going to have lower income, Matt Ray? You're going to work less, and so the assumption to the lifestyle of the capitalist is already built in that you're going to be working less in the future. And so like now,
What you're looking for is universal basic income.
the old UBI. Yes. Yeah.
You're just gonna argue yourself into circles, but that's where you're gonna end up eventually. It's like, you know what? Maybe people should just have some money.
I think that's true. And then I think we'll have one very brief chapter in the book that says, well, doesn't this imply wealth distribution? Will be the name of the chapter, and the chapter text will say the
And then
chapter text will
radiologist
say,
slams the book shut, and
yeah. Well, there'll only be one word and one piece of punctuation for that chapter, and it will be yes. Next chapter is then you'll turn to. I think is what we'll see there.
Oh, Cote, I think you just condensed Piketty into a one pager.
Piketty. Is that? Do I need to put that on the reading list? Is that gonna help me
Sure,
out?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, speaking of wealth distribution, something totally unrelated to that is the wealth of knowledge you can get at conferences. There are there are always many conferences we go over. I'm working on getting a discount code for VMware Explorer 2022, which is August 29th and 1st. I will see if that happens. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think it may be limited to the first 50 people who apply for it, but you should still go and check that out and plan to attend it. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be doing 2 talks. Also, we're working on this, formerly known as VMworld, but I believe unless something goes awry, what's an Australian word for something going sideways, something getting screwed up,
Pear shaped.
but
Tits.
something fun.
Tits up.
I mean, it's got to be something like, the surfboard really popped into my wang, or it's got to be something like, there's got to be some idiom or proverb.
I'm sure there is. I'm just not. It's late in the day.
All right, well, there's some homework for you.
I shouldn't be working, right?
Yeah. Anyhow, I think Alex Williams of the New Stack and I will be hosting at some point some video interviews. So
Good.
that'll be fun. If you're going to be there, you should come by. Maybe we should set it up so the audience can be in the background, like Good Morning America. Hold up some signs. If anyone is going to be at VMware or VMworld
Yes.
Explorer, you should definitely get in contact with me, and I would love to have you in the back audience, like the Good Morning
I've always
America.
wanted to see that. Like, what is it? The cube where they have the plexiglass set up in the middle of the conference. Yeah, I've always wanted to see somebody like banging on the glass.
I know Alex really well and his style and humor, and I think both he and I can really get behind. Like, we're gonna have a live audience back there, just doing as long as it's not lewd or tasteless. It needs to be
but then
friendly.
you're gonna have to hire security, and it's gonna have a list of photos of, like, if you see this guy, it's gonna be
I mean, I know. I don't know if we're doing it live, but we'll figure it out. So there's also our friends at that conference. They've got a Wisconsin one coming up July 25th. That's really soon. There's still, if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/369, you can get discount codes for it. There's also a discount if you want to go to DevOps Days LA, which also has Scale 19, a great conference we've talked about over the years. There's a discount code DevOps. You can apply there. That's July 29th. And I'll be speaking at the end of August at DevOps Days at Dallas, Fort Worth, August 24th to 25.
Oh, yeah.
That's how people refer to calendar months, right? Just 25. It's, the Commonwealth people do that. They'll be like 25 March or I think the Continentals do too.
Well, that's because they do their dates, day, month, year.
Doesn't make. I mean,
which makes sense.
You're just trading. The only thing that makes sense is the old ISO 5001 or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
Everything else is just nonsense spelled a different way. Like, none of it.
You are correct.
So
I want my dates, year, month, day.
Yeah, you're always zooming down to precision. You don't know whatever. And then of course we have Spring One Platform, December 6th and 8th. All sorts of exciting things happening. So. Brandon's not here, so I don't really have bureaucracy to go over. All I want to say is that if you want stickers, we give them out for free. You can email your mailing address wherever in the world it is to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com. We'll send you stickers. When we record these, we broadcast live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We haven't hooked up LinkedIn yet, but we should do that, and Facebook. You can find out how to watch that. It's mostly at the same time. Thursday night's Amsterdam time, Thursday afternoon, Austin time. What time is that in Australia?
Friday morning,
Australia time. But if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com, you can find out, hopefully, how to do all of that. Now, with that, Matt Ray, what do you have to recommend this week?
It's still too early to recommend my new network mesh that I got, having some internet problems here. So I'll save that one for next week when I can weigh in a little better if it actually worked, because it showed up like 30 minutes before this. So my real pick this week is the Sydney Harbor 10K. We'll see how it goes, but the route looks nice. It's this Sunday. If you're here in Sydney, you can still register. It's not too late. My my race bib went to the wrong address, so I will have to get there a little early. But Sunday morning, running around Sydney Harbor, it's going to be beautiful. Or it could just be pouring rain and cold. But that's my pick for this week. Is I'm running the Sydney Harbor 10K.
A little bit of a pre-recommendation there. We'll have to have some follow-up to
Yeah.
see what happens.
Well, yeah, it's running season, I guess. I caught the running bug this year for some reason, and I'm signed up for like 5 different races. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's nice. Well, my recommendation, also kind of a pre-recommendation because I have not finished it, is I'm always on the lookout not only for complicated, thought-provoking books, but also just for like easy listening books. And I got one. I never really have read the John le Carré like spy books. I think I
Uh-huh.
started reading one at one point and it was a little too complicated to keep up with things. But I saw one, I think it's the last one he wrote before he died, called Silverview, which promised to be kind of just like pretty laid back. And indeed, at least the first 2/3 of it are pretty laid back. There's a guy in a bookstore. He started a bookstore in some little sleepy British town, and it's not so bad. Now it started to get complicated, and I'm losing track of what's happening. But
they lulled you to sleep, and then they added the complexity, and you were already asleep.
yeah, I mean, I think there must have been one night where I was just reading half awake, and I kind of literally lost the plot. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's still like it's still good reading, relaxing at first. Silverview, check that out. It's good stuff. Well, speaking of losing the plot, we're going to wrap up before we lose the plot yet again. And if you've been listening this far and don't know what's happening, this has been your Software Defined Talk podcast. This is episode 369. So if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/369, you can find links to things we talked about. And I'm pretty lazy, so I didn't put in links to things we didn't talk about because I'm doing the post-production this week. But you should join our Slack channel, which you can also find at softwaredefinedtalk.com. And all sorts of links and exciting things posted there. We've got all sorts of channels, discussions going on in the community. It's a good thing to do throughout the week to keep up with stuff. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right. Good job. Send me a link to your recording in case I need it.
Yeah, let me go stop the audio hijack.
And it's speaking of a 4-day work week. Well, now I got to finish out my Friday with all that work.
You got a whole
stuff.
Friday ahead of you, right?
Yeah, I got to edit this. Go do some VMware work. Very exciting. Exciting
All right.
stuff. Plan it out. All right. Well, I'll end the stream
exciting.
here. Goodbye to all the streamers. Enjoy the rest of your life.